Hello, beautiful, lightful souls. I'm sure you are aware of all the book titles out there with the word fuck in the title. Unfuck yourself, fuck feelings, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. There's spiritual teachers who claim that your energy can rise, your vibration can become lighter when you just don't care. There's some truth to that, but I'd like to say that everything depends on who you are. And there might be some areas of your life that would really benefit from caring more, and some areas of your life that would benefit from caring a little less. So, how do you figure that out? Well, if we're talking about relationships, one of my favorite books is Attached. And this book divides people into categories, but there's the anxiously attached, the secure, and the avoidant. There's a third category as well, or fourth category as well. But the authentic truth of who we are is secure. And I know this from the other side. I know that in the presence of the divine, I felt secure. I know what that feels like. That's just being fine with who you are, knowing that you were created as a light, and you were created to shine. You were created to fulfill your destiny, and you should love that experience. Now, what happens though is we're here, and many of us are abused, or we are, we have undependable parents. So either you can become anxious or avoidant, and both are not authentic. So if you give someone who's anxious the advice of, hey, give less of a fuck, care less, get rid of some of that anxious energy, quit caring about what other people think, quit caring about the outcome of this or that, or this relationship, or would just quit caring for a little bit and care about yourself. That's good advice for the overthinkers and the people who get obsessive, and the people who, are so anxious that they are just, dying for that attachment. But that's not good advice for the avoidant people of the world, because they need to give a fuck, like about someone other than themselves, and running away from things. Like, the healing is for people to be secure, because at the end of the day, the truth is we do care. Everyone cares about their relationships. Everyone cares about their life and their survival and their emotional needs. And to say that you don't is just a coping mechanism, and to overthink it is also a coping mechanism. So everyone comes into balance when they're reminded of security. And for me, that security comes from the near-death experience, and here's the thing: we never know how life is going to turn out. And so I believe it's more important to live passionately, to love passionately, because the near-death experience on a basic level showed me, life can change in a single instance. I thought I was going to run a race back in 1994. And at the end of the day, I was going to eat some pasta. I didn't think I was going to end up in the hospital and having to learn to walk again after experiencing a profound spiritual moment. You never know how life is going to shift. And it's better to care, and it's better to leave this world a little bit better. And in order to do that, you have to care about your art, about your career, about people, about what you're doing. You just can't overcare, because that gets into icky energy. And, I get the point, that these spiritual teachers are talking about. I've had enough stalkers and enough people project upon me that, I understand, like, when someone has these ideas in their head that have nothing to do with me, it's repulsive. It's like, oh, you're really overthinking things, and I don't even care. But I think perhaps it's my energy of not caring that attracts some of that. So what is it that you need to care about, you don't need to care about? That's up to you. Renoir cared. The artist behind me, Mozart, cared. They really gave a fuck about what they were doing. They were passionate about it. We've all sat in a lecture or a talk when we can tell someone's really passionate about something. They love it. The problem occurs when there's an outcome that a person wants because of their passion. Like, we can add value to the world because of our passion. It can be taken for what it is. But outcomes are where we get into trouble. And I'll share a couple of instances where I got into trouble with outcomes. One was around my book, Angels in the OR. I'm an English professor, I'm an English major. I waited a long time to write a book. I may have waited too long because the publishing industry is really tough and a mess. And it's hard unless you have a huge platform to become a New York Times bestseller. I'm an authentic person. I'm not going to say anymore that I'm a bestseller. Yes, I'm a bestseller in many categories, and my book did well, but I'm not a New York Times bestseller. And I wanted to be. I wanted my book to be up there with The Glass Castle and Eat, Pray, Love, and some of these memoirs that are crossovers that have a spiritual message, but are also just books that lots of people enjoy. It didn't work out that way, but that disappointment that I felt has been turned into something else. There's so many writers I know who really have big expectations, in the beginning of putting a book out there. And I want to tone down some of those expectations, but also just offer hope. Because who knows, even without a platform, there are people like who just become shining stars because they write something so beautiful and they probably cared. They probably gave a fuck, about their art, and they were pure to it and they went for it. I'm waiting for the next Richard Bach to come on the scene to write something as cool and beautiful as Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And even if he has 3 followers on Instagram to become a New York Times bestseller, I'm waiting for, those breakthrough stories where greatness just rises to the top. I like to believe that it can. And part of that happening maybe is not caring so much about the outcome, but caring deeply about the art. We all know that there are so many writers and artists who were not well known in their lives, but made an impact later. So that's the beautiful thing about art, is even after you're gone, someone can be touched by your book. So I'm deeply happy that my book has touched the lives of some people that I have known, some people that people book readings with me and know some of my story and resonate with it. This means a lot, and it means a lot to just add some light to the world, some healing, some interesting topics of discussion in this world. So what is the answer? Should you give a fuck or not give a fuck? Depends on what area of your life, and it depends on who you are. So if you are really organized and wound tightly around schedules and doing things the way you want to do them, then you probably should, take a vacation from that and loosen up a little, do something differently, have some fun. If you're someone who trends more towards disorganization and fun, then spend an afternoon organizing your life, trend toward balance, care more in some areas that you normally don't, and care less in some areas that you care too much about, because we're all trying to figure out this balance of life, and one piece of advice just doesn't apply to everyone. But the one piece of advice that I think near-death experiences teach us that does apply to everyone is that kindness does matter. That energy of kindness is remembered by people. So the great lectures, the great paintings, the great accomplishments are not as important as when there is a soul that is hurting and you add a bit of light to that person's life. That's beauty. I mean, that's what teaches us that we're all connected. That's what teaches us that we're all one. You can't force someone to give it to you, and sometimes it's random, but I think believing, that you can add value through caring is important. So I hope this message hits you in a way that makes sense, and I hope it adds some clarity to some messages out there of not giving a fuck. So give a fuck in some ways and not in others. May you be blessed.